And hello, everybody. It is Tom Chenault. It's Adrian Chenault, and it is the Legacy Leadership Radio Show. And we are here to tell you it is another great day being alive. Happy Memorial Day, Adrian.
Happy Memorial Day.
All those veterans, and you are out of a Marine Corps family. You got a father-in-law who was a retired colonel, which is a big deal, and then two boys that are still in the military. So
both Army, yeah. So lots of that.
And they're both active duty Army right this minute.
They are.
That is crazy stuff. And how was Memorial Day for you?
It was good. I got to see your grandson, my little nephew, who's 1 year old. So that was pretty fun.
Well, we are super excited with today's show. This guy, Nigel Branson, is a veteran in the profession. He knows people that I never hear names that he pulled out of his hat during the pre-interview a couple of weeks ago. He has been around a long time. He has been a major force in the profession for a long time. He knows that it's great to have all this history and to respect the history, but to adapt to what's going on without losing that history and that vision is so difficult. And not many companies have been able to do it, but Nigel has. And not only that, you see him on the screen. He's a young man who is so pumped up, you cannot believe it, about what's going on with his company, with his life, with the people that he works for, which are his distributors. Everything about this guy I love. He was brought to us by the one and only Cody McKinley. I love him.
Him too. Great guy.
Yeah, great guy, and just a smart guy that's been around and understands the potholes in the business. And he just told me, he says, I've waited all my life for this guy. And here we are. Nigel, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. And thank you very much for having me as a guest on your show, Tom. After hearing your name for so many decades as a force to be reckoned with in the industry and having a stellar name, it was awesome to finally get to meet you. And like you said, we were bringing out names that very few people would be able to think about if they hadn't been around for as long as we have.
And I want you to drop those names. I'm gonna make sure I get Ron Henley on here. I'm gonna make sure I share this show right now with the ANMP. Obviously, their event is later this week. I know you're going to be out of town, but it's going to be a monster event down in Dallas, Texas. Tickets are still available. It's the best bang for the buck on the planet. I hope you send some of your leaders over there. But it is, you got so many absolute industry name network marketers, Marcus Setta, people like that, people like J. Michael Smith. I'll get to see him this week. It will be epic. So any of you that can get to that event, go. You're not going.
Yeah, I'm not going.
You got an excuse. Adrian's got a huge excuse we're not going to talk about, but he won't be there, and that's okay. He'll be sorely missed. Can't wait to do this event. And Nigel, we love you. So you started out 36 years ago. Why'd you get into this crazy profession? How did it all start? How have you stuck with it with the same company? And I'm telling you, Royce McCoy, so many people I know. It is frightening. You watch those guys jump company to company, do thing to thing, and you stayed the course the entire time yourself. You married a phenomenal woman. We want to hear the whole deal, because if we know where you've come from, we're probably going to get a sense of where you're going, and that's what we want to do today.
Well, Tom, it goes back to being born in London, raised in South Africa, and I got to work for BMW South Africa for 6 years. And then I came to America in 1986, literally with a backpack and $3,000. And the intention was to go from the East Coast to the West Coast and say, I've traveled the USA. Well, needless to say, I landed up in Dallas, Texas, and I started working for Classic BMW, which is a very renowned dealership here, and worked for them for 3 years. And the one thing I knew about success in the car business was you had to stick to one dealership for several reasons. Number one, repeat business. People, you built up a name, people got to know who you were. So it made selling cars a lot easier. I then met a gentleman who was a nutritional pioneer in our industry. His name was Lee Causey, and he had created the first diet shake that was sold through a network marketing company back in the 70s. Now you got to remember, I didn't know anything about network marketing. It was called multi-level marketing back in the 80s. But he did ask me a very profound question. He said, how would you like to become a millionaire by the time you're 30? Well, if you were working at a dealership 6 days a week from 8 to faint and starting every month over at zero and knowing his success, that sounded like absolutely. So I said, I'm in. What are we going to be selling? Do you know what he said, Tom? A colon cleanse.
Oh, that's
Oh, boy.
good.
I said, a colon cleanse? What on earth's a colon cleanse? Anyway, he told me about his invention with the diet shake. And basically, if you look back at that product that we started the company with, it was the first gut health product, pretty much available as an all-in-one supplement. So anyway, I share that with your audience to say, this young 26-year-old got excited about becoming a millionaire, selling a product that literally got you on the move within 24 hours. So
Yeah.
you can get excited about anything if you believe in it.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, absolutely, I wanted to start. And, you know, here's the key thing. He said, how would you like to become a millionaire by the time you were 30? And I think this is a key nugget for people interested or even getting involved in network marketing. He didn't say 4 months. He said 4 years. So in my mind, I programmed myself, you know, at the end of 1 year, my success was very dismal. In fact, I nearly quit after 9 months because even though he had set me up for a 4-year journey, my expectations were like most people. We want to get in, we want that instant gratification. And if it doesn't happen in 60 to 90 days, we throw in the towel. That's what I've generally noticed, but I didn't. And in fact, 9 months in, I felt like I was going backwards. I mean, he had sold me the dream and it just wasn't coming into play. Everyone that he said, make your list, and everyone I spoke to never showed up or, you know, didn't do what they say they were going to do. And I walked into his office one day to say, listen, thank you for the opportunity, but I'm going back to BMW. I'll do this on a part-time basis. He said something very profound. He says, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, I was expecting this guy to like beg me to stay, and he didn't. He said, with or without you, this company is going to be in play. And I got a lesson that day. The fear of loss is greater than the joy of gain.
Yeah.
And I said, no, my luck, I'll throw in the towel and this thing will explode tomorrow. Needless to say, I kept going. And in my 4th year, I made more money doing what I'm doing now than I did 9 years at BMW. So it does work. You got to roll up your sleeves. You got to put in the effort, keep your blinders on. And I believe you can't serve two masters. So I've just stayed focused, one company, and here we are 36 years later.
And you started that company where?
We started it in Dallas, Texas, in a print shop, and then we moved to Colorado for 6 months, and that in itself was a story that didn't work out in our favor, and we moved back to Dallas. So we've always been in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
But you were up in the hills of Colorado. It was beautiful, but you just couldn't do business because you were too far away from the people, right?
Yeah, we lived in a little town called Evergreen, and that's like 40 miles from Denver. And
Yeah.
that's not a good thing for a young whippersnapper with a front wheel drive car in the middle of a Denver storm. So
Yeah.
That is the exact town that my wife Denise grew up in, and so we've got fond memories of Evergreen. But okay, so keep going. So you guys started hashing it out. You met all the bigs. Talk about that a little bit. Talk about how you learned from them, what they're doing, and just how you stayed the course all this time, because I think it's fascinating. And so many of you are wondering who the heck he is. I've got 3 text messages already saying, is he coming to the A&MP? And he's not. His company's called First Fitness. It's been around forever. It is just a pioneer company. But what I love about him is he's rolling with the punches and taking all of the good from the past adding it to all of the good of the present to maybe make a future that is phenomenal. And I love your vibe. I love your tribe, and I love what you're doing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've always said that one day someone's going to say I got lucky.
Yeah.
And I think that day is going to be sooner than later, and I'll say, yeah, I did 36 years of luck.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So anyway, we started off with this inner body and colon cleanse, which was a revolutionary concept at the time. People would rather talk about their love life than they would how many times a day they'd go to the bathroom back in those days, I can promise you. But we evolved, and then a Fedra came onto the market in the early 1990s, and we were one of the few companies that jumped on that bandwagon. And so we've learned to adapt and shift to keep up with the way that the industry has evolved. And we had a good run with a Fedra until it was taken off the market in 2001. And that in itself was another lesson. There's really two sets of rules. There's the rules for network marketing when it comes to supplements, and then there's everything else. So they seem to be a little bit more governed, incorrectly so, in my opinion. But we've evolved, and we've had, when you've been involved, Tom, for 36 years, you have the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what one time back in the mid 2000s, we launched a product, and we tried to do what a few companies had done successfully, and that was have your foundation company and then launch a new company and try and run them separately. And it never worked out for us, and it kind of backfired a little bit. And I had these lawyers telling me, if you and your partner just filed bankruptcy, you could walk away with a few $1 million and be done with it. And it didn't sit well with me because I felt, how can you do that if you're going around telling people, quit your jobs, do this full time? I had an integrity issue. Anyway, I called my father. I said, Dad, the legal expertise of what they're saying is a smart business decision is to file bankruptcy. And I said, what's your opinion on it? He says, let me share this with you. Your last name is Branson. And he hung up the phone. So I called him back. I said, well, what was that about? He says, you asked for my advice. He says, the only thing you own in your life is your name. So there's my advice for you. You go and do what you need to do. Anyway, needless to say, we weathered the storm, and I'm proud to say that 36 years later, we have paid our commission checks on time. We have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. We have less than 1% product returns. And I feel that we're coming into play. I realized that COVID changed the dynamic of everything. The future of how we were going to live our life was determined pretty much through the COVID pandemic. And I realized that one of the things that I have found that people do not like is change. Mm-hmm. But if you don't change, there are some things, there's some consequences. And I think a lot of big companies that are doing big revenue do not change as fast as they should because they've got the momentum of the numbers in their favor. However, that will show up in time. And as we've seen with the evolution of the dynamic, if you think about your consumers' buying patterns have changed, your distributor activity and level of activity has changed. And if the companies don't adapt, I pretty much say you adapt or you die.
So let me ask you this, because I think that's really interesting. And you whether it's, crazes around, different kind of, nutraceutical ingredients, whether it's, the advent of social media and, you've been up and down these different waves riding, carrying this company for these 36 years. And what have you learned about how to recognize when, even when things are good, that it's time to change and it's time to shake things up? And how do you kind of find that sort of spidey sense, or whatever you might call that, to change even at the time when it feels comfortable to not change?
I think that comes, Adrian, through leadership and having a vision. you've got to be able to see the shortcomings before it actually happens. Otherwise, I mean, I think that's what creates leadership, right?
Mhm.
And so you can look at one company and say, well, look, they're doing $1 billion. They must have awesome leadership. But there's always a story behind the story in our industry. There's a lot of dynamics that can create that type of activity. You know, did another company go out of business and you inherited their entire sales force? Well, that can escalate revenue rapidly. What I have found, though, through what I noticed in COVID was I had a traditional compensation plan that I probably should have changed 5 or 6 years. We had a stair-step breakaway. It became known in this breakaway takeaway, right? And so the first thing I did in adjusting was we hired a very prominent man in the industry. I think everyone knows Dan Jensen.
Yep.
He evaluated our plan and he said, this model that you're working under, which a lot of big companies still had at the time, will not work with the evolution of the Uber driver getting instant pay or Walmart paying $15 an hour, on a weekly basis, which is predictable income. So I had to make a very big decision to change the comp plan. We spent 18 months modeling it. But here's something you ask, how do you adapt to the change? So you got $100. If you're going to change your comp plan, you're taking money from someone and you're placing it somewhere else. You're never going to please everyone.
Sure.
So we developed a plan to guarantee our leaders for 10 months the income. So if the income dropped, we would guarantee the transition.
Wow.
So that's something that we did that's kind of unique that I don't know how many other companies.
I hear it all the time. People, in fact, there's a very prominent company right now that a lot of leaders woke up and all of a sudden their check was down by 2/3 because of a comp plan change that was foisted upon them with no notice. And, obviously those guys were, everybody knows this company. I'm not going to say what it was, but, that's been a rough adjustment. And for you to really take it on the chin for 10 months and say, look, I know this is going to be an adaptation, but you need to understand we have got to get into the present time type comp plans. And Dan Jensen's a legend, obviously, Bravenly and doTERRA and the various companies that he really, really understands this game. And I got a lot of respect for him. So I'm proud of you for not trying a trick, but actually saying, I am going to build this thing yet one more time, reinvent the company yet one more time for the people that are coming in that want to have a great life, but I'm not going to penalize those people that have been with me for the last 36 years either. That took a lot of class.
Yeah, so what we did is we grandfathered every single person from the current plan into the new plan. But with that came a very humbling revelation. Because our new plan is driven around that Manette Global, the doTERRA, the Bravenly, they're a Dan Jensen plan, and they reward business builders. And so what we noticed when we did the conversion is we had more discount product consumers with a title of distributor than we did business builders. So that in itself created another challenge. So how do you go and get the business builders? Well, I was fortunate enough to have a vision, and through watching 60 Minutes on January the 1st of 2023, Tom, I said the next move in the supplement business is going to be GLP-1 weight loss. And in April of 2023, we filed a patent for the first plant-based GLP-1 weight loss program. So here comes the comp plan enhancement and then the product enhancement into a predominantly product consumer makeup of company.
And what's happened over the years is, you've seen it all over the last 36 years. It was product. Obviously, Amway was a big product company without a big comp plan. They pushed product and community over comp plan, but it has all evolved, and it got evolved into a race for the bank, and everything, that ended up ended badly. And now we seem to be headed back in a major way to very product centric comp plans that do reward leaders, but nobody's forgetting about those customers anymore, because finally everybody's realizing they're as important as the leaders, and the leaders are as important as the customers. And it is a slippery slope to honor both, right?
Well, I've got a very strong opinion on that. I think the days of the blue suede shoe salesman from Amway going hotel to hotel and everyone sees a 30-minute presentation and jump in, that's over. For several reasons. I think people looked at network marketing as a quick fix without the effort. Mm-hmm. And you got to roll up your sleeves. It's simple. And it's a better alternative than anything out there, but you still got to go to work. And I feel that with AI, you're getting discovered very quickly as an individual, as a product, as a comp plan. You got to dot your I's and cross your T's. And I think that what we've done in our opportunity is we've created a different category than distributor. It's kind of like a VIP rewards customer that they'll come in, they don't have to build a distributorship, but they can get the discount, they can get that instant savings, and they can test drive the product, if you will. So I'm a firm believer that if they are not using that product, believing in that product, I don't think the opportunity is going to happen or stand long term. Obviously, there's a lot of opportunities where there's these quick money games. I'm not in that space. That's not what I want to do. Not after 36 years and not before 36 years. If you're looking to do something long term, like I consider 2026 as if we're just starting over. We did a comp plan enhancement. We brought out a patent pending product that's amazing. That's getting 2 times the results with a study that's published publicly accessible, showing the weight loss results. And now we're adding in the different elements of instant pay, trying to get the money to the team member on a weekly basis much faster. You just got to keep on reinventing yourself. Otherwise, if you don't change, you'll be a memory, in my opinion.
It's critical that it's high touch and high tech and high tech and high touch. And that's Adrian speak to that a little bit, because he's obviously in the high tech part of the conversation over at NowSite. And it's hard because people want so desperately to have a machine do it for them. And I went on to Substack last night. I just said, if you ever catch me using AI in a space that I consider to be very private, that is personal to me, I am not going to trick you that it's not me with some fancy words. And it's almost the same in network marketing. And I think that's what you're really, really good at, is giving people the ability to use that technology to be better human beings and show people the human being behind the noise, if that means anything.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think that there's so much it's so easy to just churn out a ton of content. It's so easy to churn out a bunch of slop, whether that's videos, whether that's posts, there's just like, you're just scrolling through so much stuff that is really clearly not real. And that's hard and frustrating at times. But the flip side of it is that the opportunity to still use the technology, but to do it in a way that is, honoring of the connection with another person, that is, allowing you to be able to do that, and taking the person who maybe has really good, has good intentions, but doesn't have a ton of communications experience, doesn't have a ton of business experience, and go and say, I'm excited about this product. I'm excited about helping other people, and I can kind of bring those things together, and AI or technology can kind of bridge that and help me to do it in a way that doesn't have me tripping all over my own feet. That's kind of what it's about. And so I'm curious what you see from that perspective, Nigel, in terms of how, these new wellness technologies in the GLPs, how these new, AI kind of technologies. How do you see this kind of playing out in terms of how you can grow your business and how you can grow your distributor base as you kind of enter into this new season?
Well, you know, it's funny you should say that, because I'm looking at NowSite. Amy Perry from NowSite did a presentation with me on Friday, and I was blown away. I saw it a couple of years ago, I think, when Justin, the founder of that company, launched it at GoPro, but to see how it's evolved and how much more beneficial it is to not only the companies and the I mean, it's for everyone. So I think there's an element for high touch. But the other day I had, you know, so one of our focus products right now is GLP-1 weight loss, right? And I had someone who knows what they're doing in the business said the only challenge I see with that is you've got to hold people's hands too much for the duplication. And my point was, if I'm taking $200 in a retail sale from someone, what is wrong with picking up the phone and giving them a minute to a half, just checking on to see if they're using it properly? We know most people don't read directions. So I think there's got to be a balance. What I'm seeing now, and we saw this in COVID, when we were doing in-person conventions and New Year rallies like everyone else was. And when people would come to our events, we'd have some type of product buying special. It was reduced. The amount of the average order was cut in half, 50%, when it was virtual.
Yeah.
Why? There's no emotion. Hey, the meeting's finished, click the computer, I'm off. Or you're getting distracted, or you're putting it on mute, and you're turning off the camera. You know, you're getting told to go and run the kids. Whatever it is, there's a distraction. The in-person event, what's happening? It's the meeting after the meeting.
Yep.
So we're trying right now to encourage our team members to get back, even if it's starting off as old school as it sounds. Everyone wants this easy come, easy go. Easy come, easy go doesn't create a lasting business. You're not going to have sustainable long-term success with the less I do, the more I earn. I think there's a balance. To answer your question, Adrian, I think you've got to use both. Yep. You've got to use the technology. I think the challenge that you have in the industry today, the number one challenge, in my opinion, is for the existing team members. Where do they find new business when they've run through the warm market?
Yep.
And back when me and your dad started, we could go and run an ad in the newspaper or some type of store newspaper. And do you know what our advantage was? There was no mobile phone. You had to leave your name on an answering machine. Well, right there. I had your name and your phone number. When I called you back, you could sense that enthusiasm and that energy in my voice. Today, you don't get that opportunity. They're coming to your website and they're going to judge whether they engage, not engage, leave their information based on what they see. You don't get to see that prospect. So if you can help the distributors with tools like I saw this past weekend, and I know there's a lot more options than just NowSite. NowSite's got a niche. I mean, there's other ways of getting leads, but our demographic, mine and your dad's demographic, wasn't raised with social media.
Yeah.
So asking us to start creating, you know, conversations and do this and do that to get leads is quite difficult for us. And you can't rule out our demographic.
No.
We are a major force of the industry because the golden rule of, you know, work for a company for 40 years, get to 65 and retire has gone out the window about 25 years ago.
Yep.
And so most people are not able to retire and they're looking for that, you know, side hustle, that extra income, and network marketing is thriving because of it. It's not surviving, it's thriving, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I think that's right on. And I think, to your point, it's about creating emotion, right? How do you create emotion? You create a sense of connection. Yeah. And you're, you know, back in the day, you're doing that with this, you know, this voice answering service or whatever that is. And you're able to do that. And in the world of social media, most people aren't doing it at all because they don't know how to do it. They don't, you know, everything feels like a canned, you know, sort of speech because that's exactly what it is. And the secret to breaking through is pretty simple, right? The secret is figure out how to connect and actually like have it be custom to the person who you're talking to. Because once I know that I'm not just getting the same script as everybody else and that we're connecting, now there's some emotion. Now there's something there. And I think that's what people are really looking for. And it's kind of been the missing link, is everybody's talking at each other instead of conversing with each other. And we're finally kind of breaking through that.
No, I totally agree. I mean, when I say to you right now, I've been doing this for 36 years. I am more excited today than I was when we started this company, because all you got to do is adapt to the environment that you're in. If AI is a tool, use it. If affiliate marketing is another way of getting more people to do it, we've been testing all of it. So,
yeah.
You know, I feel like we just now are going to let people know who we are. I mean, you might say 36 years later. Yep. You know, a lot of people say, well, I haven't heard about your company. Do you know, last week I was on the phone with a friend of mine who lives in Dallas, who's in the industry, had never heard of a company called Advocare. I mean, I know that's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
He lives in Dallas. It blew me away. But I've lived here in America. Coming on May the 31st of this year, I will celebrate 40 years living in the US.
Wow.
Do you know, I've never been approached by anyone for Herbalife. I've never been approached for Amway. I mean, there's New Skin, a lot of companies I could mention that I've never been approached with. So, you know, with over 300 million people, there's plenty for everyone to go around. That's my opinion.
That is so true. Yeah, you're not competing with some other network marketing company. You're competing with the fact that most people have never heard of any of this stuff, or have had blinders on or whatever. And your opportunity is to be the one who kind of pierces the veil, and they get to hear about it with fresh eyes. And you guys get to be a 36-year-old overnight success, right?
Yeah, but I do feel that the approach has to be a little bit more professional than it has been in the past. I think people they want to be part of something that they're proud to be along of. I think the culture and the community.
Yeah.
In other words, I'd like to say you got to be a class act. I want to be involved in a company where I feel like it's a class act. I could take it to my friends. I'm not going to be embarrassed. I think you got to have that sense of belief in whichever company it is that you are, in whichever product. You got to believe. Belief is the number one ingredient to your success.
What do you think are the building blocks of cultivating that culture of professionalism and building a culture to be proud of? You know, what does that look like? How do you try to set that tone as a leader?
Lead by example.
Yeah.
Lead by example.
How hands-on are you? Are you retired? Are you in a glass ivory tower? Or are you out there in the trenches with your people?
You know, because I started off in the company as the company's first distributor, I understand how it's not easy. I don't care how much momentum a company has. It is not easy for the average person who's going to get started. They've got to go make their first product sale. They've got to get their first recruit. So I'm in the trenches. Tom, I work more hours per week today than I did 36 years ago. But I don't answer the question. But I don't consider doing what I do as work. I don't complain. I don't tell people, oh, I'm tired, I need a break. No, I haven't accomplished what we want to accomplish. And so the mindset, it's all about developing the right mindset. Yeah. We're just getting started. That's how we look at it. So what would you do if you were just getting started? You ain't going to make it on 3 hours a week. That's not happening. So it's 7 days a week, but it's 7 days a week on your terms. That's the magic of network marketing.
Yeah.
How do these people find you? Well,
they could go and Google us. I don't know if on your show you want me to unveil.
Can we find you? I already told them what the name of your company was, so we know that. But can they find you? Are you on Facebook? Is that your primary place?
You know what? I don't do a lot of social media. I am on social media. I am on Facebook under Nigel Branson USA. I'm very proud to say I'm American. In fact, you'll appreciate this, Tom. You know, here we are celebrating and remembering the people that gave us our freedom this past weekend. But, you know, I use this in my in my presentations, I say, now I'm talking to Americans primarily, right? I'm doing a presentation in America. I assume I say, you guys really take this country for granted. And, it's not your fault. You just got nothing else to compare it to. But when you take a person like me that's lived somewhere else, our worst day in America, whatever you want to call that, is the best day in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, the world is your oyster here. I wake up every day going, I can't believe I have this opportunity to wake up and breathe this air. And even my kids will tell you that my father appreciates this country even more than we do because they were born here. They were raised here. But when you've had a chance to live elsewhere, I'm telling you, there is no other place than this place. It's amazing. Amazing.
And your wife's from Albania?
Yeah, my wife's from Albania, and she was raised under communist rule and no electricity. I mean, came to America and learned to speak English watching Wheel of Fortune.
Wow.
That's so awesome. That's amazing.
Do you know, Tom, this will just show you, and she's a beautiful lady. Do you know that she was walking around an industrial area, knocking on different businesses to get a job?
Yeah.
Just doing what it takes. So we have so many opportunities here, and it's such an awesome place. And what an industry to be involved. When I look at network marketing, it's so forgiving. The only requirement that you have is you've got to like people. And if you don't like people, then this is the wrong profession for you.
Yeah.
You could have filed bankruptcy yesterday. You don't have to have a high school education. You can be a college graduate. You can be a professor. It doesn't matter. You just got to like people and be a person of integrity if you want to be successful. That's my nugget.
That's right on. I love that. Yeah. And that's it. Like people, cultivate liking people, right?
Yep.
And that's that. Your warm network never runs out if you can do that.
Absolutely.
You said something a long time ago in the show. You talked about the people that you have on that rotating buy, and they're spending $200 a month. And what idiot sells somebody for $200, and that person trusts you to buy $200 worth of product? You make the sale. They never get another call from you. They talk about, I know a network marketing company, and they talk about the number one reason people send back the product is they never opened up the box. And the reason they never opened up the box was because nobody called them, put them on, in contact mapping and NowSite, we call that a rotation of remember, not a follow-up. Follow-up sucks. Rotation of remember, where you just call them up and say, hey, you got it. How's it working? You're going to need to reorder, and you're going to know whether they're taking it or not just by virtue of the fact that how they answer the question. It is so logical, but in this business, we don't do it. What is wrong with that? I mean, I don't understand.
Do you know, Tom, I've got an example that's happening right now. Right now. So we have a lady that was on the injections for 30 days, and she was only able to lose 5 pounds, and then her insurance went away and she couldn't afford it. So she gets on our product through someone else, through a distributor. And she says she used the product for 30 days and never lost any weight, not a pound. So she wanted to return the product. Well, I'm trying to help this new team member because they are significant in the industry. So I said, you know what, I'm going to call this lady. So she, first of all, probably has to think, what on earth? The president and co-founder of a company is calling me about my weight loss. And I said to her, I just want to ask you a couple of questions. Did you read the instructions, watch the video? No. Did you receive a phone call from the person that sold you the product? No. So instead of her returning the product, by the time I was finished with her, she had reordered again to the tune of $330 a product.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to do something that I just feel led to do. And that is, I'm going to coach you. Would you like me to coach you for 7 days to 2 weeks? She says, absolutely. I get on the program. Even with me coaching, she didn't do what I asked her to do.
Right.
So I made these, it was once every 2-3 days, a quick little phone call, 60, 90 seconds. She lost 6.5 pounds her first week. in the business. So I said to her, what's the difference? She says, the coaching. So I said, but the coaching is not, no one's going to coach you to the extent that I coach you. She says, they don't have to. They just got to call me occasionally and encourage me not to give up.
Bingo.
That's it.
That's it.
So
we'll go back to the bad food. We'll go back to the sugar. We'll go back to the gluten. We'll go back to all the garbage and walk away from what makes that product dance and blame the product, or the person or the company. All of you, just please treat a business like a business. That's all it is. You owe it to them. They're your friends. So we're going to get out of here. But I am going to tell you, I told you all, Nigel's the man. Find him on Facebook. He'll talk to you. Let him feel your heart. Tell him what you're going through. Let him coach you for a minute and see if he can help you get out of whatever is stopping you, because the guy's a rock star. There is absolutely no doubt about it. I love you, Nigel. Maybe I'm going to be down there early enough to see you before you head out of town. Absolutely. Down in Dallas. But I'm going to tell you what, with the time I've spent with you, we are kindred spirits. I have nothing but respect for you. And I want to help Adrian, and I want to help you with everything we've got.
Well, Tom, I just appreciate you taking the time to, first of all, have a few Zooms with myself and Cody, getting to learn about myself, the company, and what we do, and then just to embrace the openness. And you're an advocate and an ambassador for the industry. I mean, you speak for everyone, and I'm just honored to have been chosen as a guest. And I just thank you very much for having me on here. And you got a good man there, Adrian. That's a great dad, and I would listen to what he says and follow his footsteps. You're only going to go in the right direction. So thanks, guys, for having me on.
All of you, Google firstfitness.com. Take a look at what he's doing. It's a big, big deal. Been around a long time, and you can judge the future by the past. And I will tell you, this guy's here for the long haul. He's got a young wife. He's got to work his ass off, and that worked in you. We love you, Nigel. See you later.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thanks, Adrian. Thanks. Goodbye, everyone.